Hello, guys, and welcome to Comic Book Weekly. And we have definitely a big show for you guys. We have some big news to talk about, as you can see with the title. But sadly, it is only the two of us this week. So we are holding down the fort. Of course, Mike's on his hiatus for the summer, and then Chris could not finish his books this week. So he didn't have a chance to come on. But we are here to discuss, and there's a lot of news, so we are just going to jump in. We'll save that Spider-Man topic for the end of the news, so get ready for that. But let's start off with something that was announced today, which is that Transformers 7, which is kind of crazy that they're up to 7 movies, is going to be called Beast Wars. Now, I don't know anything about Transformers, but I've heard those words before.
Yeah, I've watched all the Transformers movies. Sorry, I was trying to take that off.
Okay.
And I know there's mixed feelings about the Transformers movies, but whatever. I enjoy them for what they are. Beast Wars, though, I absolutely loved that animated series when it came out. It was just a completely different take on Transformers. It was deep and character driven and all kinds of good stuff about that show. So if this has anything to do with that and it resembles it at all, I'm there. I doubt it will. They'll probably just completely ruin it. but I'm still there. Beast Wars it holds a strong place in my heart. So I'm curious about this now.
So you'll have to let us know how that Transformers movie is, because I didn't even watch Bumblebee, and I heard that was actually good.
Yeah, it was. It was really good, actually.
So going into the last media news piece, which was definitely a big one from this week, is that the Shazam family, the new suits were revealed. But the big thing from this was that Mary Marvel, the actress who plays the young Mary Marvel, is the same actress who's going to be playing the superhero version, which is kind of cool. I'm stoked for this movie. I really enjoyed that first one. So I'm just excited.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one too. And just seeing them in their costumes and their identities and stuff, and there's some familiar faces that that I know, like Adam Brody from the OC and stuff like that, and that's kind of cool. So it's like, okay, this should be fun. So that's all you can ask from that movie, from that franchise, right after that first one, for sure.
I feel like I've been so behind on all movies since COVID, because I used to go to the movie theater and go see stuff, but now there's no excuse to do it, and I haven't even seen the recent Disney movie. I think we are going to watch it this week. I'm going to try getting that done. But I haven't seen many movies. So I hope to change that with some of these superhero stuff. I'm trying to think if there's a superhero movie I haven't seen. There's a lot of the superhero shows I haven't fully caught up on, Winter Soldier I have to still catch up on. But like I said, I watched all Invincible, so I feel like that's the only one that matters right now. I haven't seen any of Loki yet, so I'll try catching up.
Loki's good. It's going in interesting places, so we're enjoying it so far. We're caught up on that one, but we've been watching all that. I don't think I've missed any of the movies either. I don't. Well, yeah, I even watched New Mutants, believe it or not.
Oh, there you go. I did not see New Mutants. That's one I definitely missed. I would have seen in theaters, but because it's on demand or whatever, I was like, do I really care? Probably not. But yeah, hopefully I could catch up on all that. I will say, when Hawkeye and She-Hulk and Miss Marvel come out, I will be watching that weekly. Those are the 3 I'm super excited for.
Right.
So going into the comic news, we have a lot of Marvel. A lot of DC news, because they just released their solicits. So first up is that DC is bringing back Batman Beyond, which I thought was interesting, because I've heard complaints about the Urban Legends book and some people loving the Urban Legends book, but this is why I like it, because it's bringing opportunities to characters maybe we wouldn't have seen in a while. So to get to see Batman Beyond and have his own story, same thing for Tim Drake or Stephanie Brown. I think that's great. And even if I'm not a Batman Beyond fan, I'm glad to see that the love is being spread throughout this book, and I like that it's on my pull list.
Yeah, I think it's cool too that, like you said, with Urban Legends, that you're getting that spotlight on some of these secondary, tertiary characters, and I really did like Batman Beyond when it came out. I just never got into the comics for whatever reason. Whenever they brought him back, so I keep hoping for something like to just grab me. So hopefully this time around it will.
I agree. We'll see. Again, there's been some surprising stories on there, like the Jason Todd story we're all really liking, and I've never been able to get into a solo Jason Todd story. I like the character, but I think he works usually better with other people. So it's been cool to see him solo and it be such a good book.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving on to the next thing, which is Black Manta getting a series. I just thought this was interesting because Black Manta has never gotten a series before, so that's cool. And also the whole idea that Aqualad's kind of getting a bigger spot in the DC universe, which I'm super excited for that book. And I'm not a huge Aquaman fan, but I really like the Future State. I'm like, what was it called again? The Future State books. And I'm curious to see where they're taking Aquaman's franchise, because he's kind of been on a break because of his series being canceled.
Yeah, it's the last Aquaman run wasn't great, so it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But I love, did we talk about Aqualad last week, or
we did? That was out last week.
Yeah. So I obviously think that's a cool idea, and then you bring Black Manta and do something with him as well. I mean, that just kind of makes sense, right? And you definitely want to see those two, come together and butt heads again. So that'll be interesting as that plays out too.
Yeah, the father-son dynamic will very much be interesting. And I'll probably get at least, try out the first issue for both books and see where it goes.
Right.
I don't know if I would have said the same if Aqualad wasn't getting a series, though. I don't know if I would have gone that Black Manta book. Oh,
yeah, I definitely wouldn't have. That changes everything about it. Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully they'll all be connected. The name changes says, I want more Aquaman, anything to do with that world. And then Serenity says, Aquaman has been off the market since Future State. I need a new Aquaman book, which is, luckily hasn't been too long, because Future State feels like a while ago, but it was only really, I think, 2 months ago. I don't think it's been that long.
Yeah, at least it feels like it was only 2 months ago. Maybe it was a little bit longer. I don't know. Everything's a blur at this particular time.
Everything is definitely a blur for sure when it comes to that. Last DC news, though, is that Deathstroke is going to team up with Black Canary in Deathstroke Inc. I was excited for this when they announced it at Comics Pro. They announced there's a Deathstroke Inc. book. It's like, what's that about? And Williamson's going to be writing it. I'm not a huge Howard Porter fan, though, for the artwork. So I don't know how to feel about that. But this is, two great fighters in the DC universe. I'm excited for Black Canary to kind of get her own spotlight, because she's been in Justice League and she's sharing so much of that spotlight with other characters. So I'll at least give this a shot. Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it, because again, it's the Flash team, like you said, it's Joshua Williamson, Howard Porter, and I didn't really love what they did with the Flash, so I'm kind of iffy about this, and it's weird to team those two together, right? It's like, how does that make sense? Like, I'm curious about that. Like, why are these two working together? What brought them together for this purpose? So, if anything, I would check it out just for that curiosity.
So next up, we have Miss Marvel getting another series, but we don't know if it's an ongoing or not, because the way it's titled, it feels like a mini series. So it's called Beyond the Limit. And, she's getting her own Disney Plus show, and they're like, damn, we need to get her own comic again. And it's written by Samira Ahmed, which I haven't read any of their stuff. And then something I'm really excited for, but also really worried about, is that Andres Genelet, who's done Runaways, is on this series. So I'm excited as a Miss Marvel fan, because I'm like, oh my God, I love his artwork. But I'm also nervous, because I'm like, what does this mean for Runaways?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's I don't know. That makes you wonder, right? With Miss Marvel, though, it's always cool to see her come back, But at this point, I kind of look like all her series is just like giant maxi series, because they always end. It's just, it's another new volume of Miss Marvel. But I want to see what they do with her now, because, I think they've exhausted the kind of stories they were telling with her. So I want to see them go beyond that, like take the character into, the next level. What is that next level? I don't know what that looks like.
I agree. I feel like since G. Willow Wilson left the book, they have not, at least the previous creative team didn't really know what to do with the character, and I was kind of frustrated with that run, if I'm being honest. As a Miss Marvel fan, it was kind of hard to stick around with it. So I hope that changes here, and I also hope that the supporting cast is utilized well here as well, because they're such a big part of Miss Marvel. And no matter what, I'm going to be getting it. I never want to drop Miss Marvel. I think it's it's a series I've read since issue 1, so hopefully it sticks the landing.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So let's see. We have a couple of questions here, so I want to get into those before we jump into our main topic. So first up, new type JB Lee says, speaking of Spider-Man, should there be a huge, House of X, Powers of X revamp of all the Spider titles? I think it's harder because with X-Men, there's a lot of characters, right? So you could do 20,000 books. With Spider-Man, you got Ghost Spider, you got Miles, and you got Peter, maybe you got Jessica. There's not as many. I don't know if I want to see them like do a Krakoa thing with Spider-Man. I do think they need to do something with the character, and obviously we're going to get into that. But I don't know if it's Krakoa and literally, I would say that Krakoa was superior Spider-Man in a lot of ways, because what Heroes of X and Jonathan Hickman's doing is that, it's everything you thought about the X-Men. They're always like, humans come first because that's what we say. And they're like, nah, you know what? We were wrong. So it's pretty much the same thing with Spider-Man. Like, that's their version of that, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you need to do some kind of major thing with Spider-Man at this point. Like, we've just had Venom where you're getting Carnage. I don't want to see Spider-Man next. But I want it simpler for Spider-Man. I just want to get back to the supporting cast. That's all I want. I don't need a big thing. I want Mary Jane back. I want, all these supporting characters. Yeah, really back. Like, actually in the series. I want all these supporting characters that we know and love that make Peter involved in his day-to-day life and his adventures. And that's what's going to make Spider-Man for me.
I agree. And I think that's and this will kind of go into our main topic now, which is that Nick Spencer is leaving Spider-Man. That has been confirmed. We don't know who is taking over just yet. I'm sure we'll get that information soon. And his last issue is September. And one of my biggest issues with this run, I have a lot of issues, but one of my biggest is that they kept teasing, the idea that the supporting characters are going to be so important. And then they never really utilized them. Mary Jane, she's just kind of there. The roommate situation was just kind of there. And then Harry, he doesn't do anything. He says the same things over and over again. And that's been my biggest issue of this whole run, is that there's so much promise, because I do think it tried to tap into some really cool classic stories, but there was like a lot of writing 101. I feel like that wasn't tapped into correctly, like how to move a plot, how to have the main character in your book, right? Like, he's not even really involved in his own book. Like, so there's so many things I feel like Nick Spencer tried going off book and tried doing his own thing. And that was the failure of this run, and why I think a lot of people lost interest overall.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because we were so excited when Nick Spencer was announced to come on this book, and we're Spencer fans from different things, and when I think about this run, I think about Morning Glories, because it's the long game, it's a mystery, it's that kind of thing, right? So there's kind of precedent from this writer for that kind of storytelling, but for whatever reason, this particular story was more decompressed, like 10 times more decompressed than anything Bendis ever did with anything.
Right?
Which, which is crazy to say, but it's such a long, drawn out story that didn't really have the payoff that it promised, I think. And that kind of made it fall short, at least for me. Because it became predictable who Kindred was. And then once you found out who Kindred was, Kindred did nothing, and he still hasn't done anything. And it hasn't really made the impact that it should have made on Peter and the supporting cast. And speaking of that supporting cast, they were in and out of this book. You got little teases of them here and there, and then they were just discarded to make way for another story. Nick Spencer's love for Spider-Man shines through with all the old like D-list characters that he brought back from time to time throughout this run. So I do appreciate that, but at the same time, it's just they were kind of filler stories, and they didn't have that impact that I wanted from a Spider-Man story. So
yeah, and thematically, what was the book about? I still am questioning it. I feel like there's always moments where you like almost figure it out, where it's like, okay, it's about this like mirror version of Harry and Peter, but they never say anything and they never do anything with it. It's like, okay, maybe it's Mary Jane and Peter getting back together, but they hardly talk to each other. So it's just nothing is happening, and I 100% agree. It's all decompression, and I think that's such a disappointing thing. I agree. There's some really good arcs here. Like I love the podcast arc. I really liked a lot of the beginning of this run. Right. There's some issues here and there, even recently, that I enjoyed. I like that Teresa showed up, but it never feels. I never get like a gut punch, right? It doesn't feel like Nightwing. Like Nightwing's a great example where maybe some people would say that book's decompressed, right? Because like not plot-wise, not a lot's going on, but character-wise, so much is going on. And that's where Nick Spencer fails. Like he thinks a lot's going on character-wise, but nothing's going on, and neither is the plot. So you're reading absolutely nothing.
Right. It's like during the height of the Kindred stuff when he was, battling him, he was in his head, you were seeing some character development from Peter, but in the wrong way. He was like being completely out of character. He was angry. He was, accusatory, all these things that Spider-Man is not. So it threw things completely off kilter. And then like there was those little touchstones of greatness where like you mentioned at the beginning with Boomerang and Robbie and that whole dynamic and with Jonah and that relationship, but it just like every single one of those was okay. Here's this great thing. Okay, we're gonna throw that aside for 20 issues, and then when it comes back, we'll just blow it up, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. And that's kind of the way I felt this whole entire run went. And it's interesting because Mike brought up in our private chat that we could compare this like to Slott's run, and we had a lot of criticisms of Slott's run too. But the one thing about Slott's run is there was a very long period of time where I really enjoyed that run. During the entire Superior Spider-Man, I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would because it was completely different. Now, the stuff that followed that, not so great at times, and there was a lot of stuff that kind of made me not want to read Spider-Man here and there, but overall, I think I found more enjoyment from that run than this run, which blows my mind because I was so excited for Spencer to take this. So
yeah, I'll agree. I think there are some bigger moments in Slott's run, and granted he was on it longer, but I do not think his run was perfect either, because like there are some issues where all it was action, and it was so crowded. A lot of the issues where I'm like, what the hell is going on? There's just so much, too much going on every issue compared to Spencer. I saw a comment from Tavia. He said like, well, isn't decompression a good thing? And I'm like, yes, sometimes it is, but it depends on how you do it. Again, decompression's only good as the moments you stay with your characters, because think about slice of life stories. They're all decompression. They're all just like, minute moments. And if it has nothing to do with the character moments, then they're not good. It's a balancing act.
Well, look at Runaways. Like Runaways right now, this entire run is completely decompressed. Mm-hmm. There's very little that happens every issue.
Nothing happens in this book.
Nothing ever happens. But the character building every single issue is on point. And that's the difference, like you just said. There's not a lot of character growth or character progression in this run, unfortunately. There's some. I'm not going to say there's not any. There is some, and there's moments of it. And, the stuff that, happened between Boomerang and Spider-Man, we eventually saw, that build and kind of evolve into something else.
But then drop the ball.
And then drop the ball, yeah. And then, that's the problem. So I don't know. It's almost, and I don't want to put, I don't want to accuse Nick Spencer of dropping the ball, but it does seem like he kind of lost his way in the weeds a little bit with this run.
Yeah,
So
I think it's also the scheduling too, because like I really don't like that Spider-Man is monthly. I don't like that we have a bi-weekly comic right now. I think it's just way too much Spider-Man. I'd rather another Spider-Man series written by someone else, kind of like what Superman is doing, or even Batman, than have one writer keep writing the same thing, because it's obviously taking a toll.
Yeah, and I will say this though, I know there are viewers that watch this that really like Nick Spencer's run, and that's totally cool. All this is subjective. These are our opinions, how we view it. So I just did want to put that out there. And I do like Nick Spencer's writing. I just don't like this run. So.
Yeah. And again, we've mentioned as well, like there are good issues of this run.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's made my top 5. I really liked a lot of the beginning stuff, probably before the Kindred stuff. That's where I kind of start falling off. But that brings into another question. Who would you like to take over the book? I'm seeing a lot of names here from our audience members. Mike Manhattan wants Kyle Higgins or Brian K. Vaughan. I think Brian K. Vaughan's going to be a little tough. I don't think we're going to get Brian K. Vaughan. But Kyle Higgins, you never know. He's doing a great job at Radiant Black. I would love to see Kyle Higgins on this book. But I think the one I really see the most is Chip Zdarsky. If I really had to make a solid guess of who it's going to be, he's a good one. A lot of people are mentioning also like Jerry Conway, Tom DeFalco, and I love my boy Tom DeFalco. But I also want to see a new voice. I think we've seen a lot of that. We've seen the Jerry Conways take over, him especially, take over Spider-Man in a modern lens, and it just feels like the same thing. It's regurgitating stuff we've seen. So I want a fresh voice. I don't want to see someone who's been on Spider-Man before.
Yeah, I would really have to think about it. I mean, I think it would be interesting to see like Donny Cates try on Spider-Man.
Now he's doing Venom. No,
right.
He's done
Hulk.
Venom. Yeah. Sorry, Hulk.
He's doing Hulk.
He's doing Hulk now.
Yeah, and it's that's his sweet spot, is those kind of bigger characters with more lore surrounding them. I think Spider-Man, he's more of that down to earth, and I think that is in Zdarsky's wheelhouse. So that would be a good one. I'd like to say Tom Taylor for everything, but we've seen Tom Taylor write Spider-Man, and it wasn't our favorite. So I don't know. Much. Yeah, he is.
I would love to see a female voice too. I would love to see like Kelly Thompson. I say Kelly Thompson for everything. But Kelly Thompson on Spider-Man would be amazing. Oh,
Kelly Thompson. That's enough said right there. Kelly Thompson. That's my answer now too.
Yeah, I love her writing so much. I think it would fit so well because of her comedy writing, and then everything is character driven as well.
Right.
A lot of mixed opinions in the comments about Amazing Spider-Man. Some people really love this run, some people really don't, and I think that's maybe a testament to the run. Maybe it was good for some people if it's half and half. What about Gail Simone on Spider-Man? I don't think she's really... I mean, she's obviously still writes comics, but I think she's been focusing on other projects from what I've seen on social media. I haven't really seen too much from comics. But yeah, I would love to see Gail Simone write Spider-Man. But she's also, a veteran. I really do want to see someone maybe not as known tackle the character. And I'm not saying that Chip Zdarsky is not known, but Gail Simone's like, in some regards, a household name. Like if you're into geek culture, that name. So I want somebody to build their career off of Spider-Man.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like people that are writing series that I, like outside of the big two. And I think it'd be interesting to see Ryan Parrott.
I would love to see Ryan write Spider-Man. That'd be so good. Love to see that. His writing would fit so well. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of great contenders out there. And we'll see. I think, again, in about a week or so, we'll find out who the writer is. So we'll have an even bigger conversation there. Yeah. We're getting a lot of, again, Todd McFarlane's. He did Spider-Man for a while. He definitely did Spider-Man for a while. Let's see. Kevin Smith. Some people were saying. Some interesting names. They really want those heavy hitters. I don't think Spider-Man needs a heavy hitter. Like Spider-Man can sell on his own. Like you usually get those heavy hitters for like smaller books. Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Oh man, that would be something. That'd make headlines. That's for sure.
I would still pick it up, but I don't know. what that would look like.
Yeah, just don't put Grant Morrison on it. Don't kill my Spider-Man.
That would also be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Vita Ayala, that's a good one too. I've enjoyed Vita's work. They are very good. Let's see. Is this a question? I don't think so. But yeah, that's our main topic for Spider-Man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Now we are going into some shout outs from our Kickstarter. So Brant, what are the shout outs?
Yeah, so we just have one, and I'm going to try not to butcher your name, man. It's Hawaiian, and I have had trouble with it in the past, but this is a good friend of mine I've known for many years, DJ Kiavakane. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, we're going to shout you out, man. And we're actually going to be reviewing one of his comics, Exilium #1, in a few weeks. So be on the lookout for that as soon as he's got it ready for us. So looking forward to that. But yeah.
Yeah, same. Also, before we jump into the comics, I do have a Kickstarter going on, so I'm going to screen share that. We literally only have 2 more days. So if you haven't backed it up yet, go check it out. It's the Haunting Like Father, Like Daughter Kickstarter. Like Father, Like Daughter is about a high school girl. Father left her to become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her, and then she inherits his abilities. So Haunting's about a young boy who has ghosts following him and doesn't want to take responsibility for that. And in this crossover, and I'm going to show you some preview pages. This is the interiors. In this crossover, we get to see the 2 main leads of, well, really all the characters from the books, Haunting and Like Father, Like Daughter, team up at a Halloween dance, and they have to go defeat ghosts and zombies and find out who's bringing them to life. So it's new reader friendly. If you want a fun one shot and just want fun back in comics, definitely go check this out. You don't need to read Haunting or Like Father, Like Daughter to read this, and you don't need this issue to read the next issues of Like Father, Like Daughter and Haunting. We really want to make this new reader friendly and purely a one shot. So definitely go check this out. Again, we only have until Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern time if you wanted to back. So there you go. So let's get into our Under the Radar. So did you want to do that this week, Brant?
Yeah, that's fine. And I don't really have one because all my picks were big books. If I had to say one, okay, so mine, I'm going to be very brief because I didn't actually like the book, but something happened in New Mutants that I did want to call out, which I think, at least on this show, it's definitely under the radar because none of us read it.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so this was, all part of the gala thing, so I just kind of skimmed it because I didn't get to finish all my books this week. But something happened with Gabby, which I thought you'd find interesting.
I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah, so throughout all the gala, Laura's looking for her. She's asking about her, and nobody knows where she's at and everything. And so at the end of the issue, a couple of characters are digging through debris, and they see an arm. And at the same time, Laura finds a letter from Gabby talking about how she doesn't really fit in anymore, doesn't know what her place in the world is, and all this stuff. And we find Gabby. And she's like, I don't know if she's dead or if she's unconscious or what's going on, but she's in a pile of junk. And it's like, oh no, it's Gabby. And so I don't know what's going on there, what the end game with that is or where that's headed because, I haven't been reading New Mutants, but definitely interesting for a character that we've been talking about, wondering what happened to her and love. So.
Yeah, that's sad. I don't know how to feel about that one. So we'll see how that goes. We just wanted more Gabby. That's not the type of more Gabby I want.
Exactly. All right. So what was your under the radar, Kat?
Mine, well, first I want to get some comments here and then I'll talk about mine. Scoundrel says, all right, guys, have to go. I got sports to do. Love the channel. Keep up these great streams. Thank you so much. Hey, sports are important too. We love the sports here as well. Then the name changes like the EC Comics homage cover. Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's really cool.
So my under the radar was Stillwater issue 8, and this was a really good issue. So we get to see the point of view of the sheriff. So she's been in almost every issue, and now we finally find out how she became the sheriff and that she had cancer and that she really can't leave this place or else she's gonna die. And I just love the character work here, and that's why we're talking about Chip Zdarsky taking over Spider-Man, he really shines when it comes to character work, and we really get to see that up front here. And I care about this character more. I care about this comic even more. So I really enjoyed this one. This took me by surprise because it was just such a random one-shot issue, but it really helped build the story more.
Yeah, I think some of those have been the stronger issues, though, because we get a little insight into different characters, and her story is definitely key to this book, since the beginning. So, and now that she's kind of taken out there, kind of usurped her authority. What's his name did. That's going to change everything. So it's going to be interesting. And what side is she ultimately on?
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I think that's the biggest question about this whole book is what side anyone's on. Mike Manhattan asks, what is this book about? It's about a town where no one could die. And this guy, our main character, he didn't know about this town. He goes there randomly with his friend and finds out he's from there. So he's the only one who's ever escaped this town and grew up. And mystery surrounds everything. It's super cool.
Yeah, they don't like anybody to leave or talk about the town or anything like that. So it's real interesting, kind of almost Shyamalan in that way, but better.
Definitely better. Tevye also asks, so everybody's immortal. When they're in the town, they are. So if they ever left the town, they're not. But whatever's going on in there, they don't have to die.
Serenity had a comment about Gabby. I don't know if you saw that one. He said it's headed to Shadow King having killed her and then fighting the council because Gabby is a clone and clones can't be resurrected. My issue with that is during the whole wherever Laura went, what that temple, whatever her, Sink, and Darwin went, they were going to resurrect her, and she's a clone. So that doesn't really hold up. If that's where they're going, they're messing with continuity again. But whatever.
I guess a clone of a clone. Is
a clone of a clone. A clone of a clone can't be resurrected, but a clone's fine.
How that math works, I don't know.
Right.
All right. So we'll get into big books. You want to navigate this one, Brant, or you want me to navigate?
That's fine, and you can take most anticipated this week if that works.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, so getting into our big books and top 5, and before we do that, let me just do Chris's job real quick. Do that spoiler alert. We've already kind of spoiled some stuff, but just in case, we'll put that up there. All right, so going into our first big book this week, we're going to talk about something related to a couple things we were just talking about. Planet Size X-Men #1. This is the big, anticipated thing that has major implications for X-Men.
I guess.
Yeah, the next Powers of X, House of X, Okay, so this book is all about basically taking Arakko and putting it on Mars. That's it. So
I was not a fan. Literally, that was the whole issue. That was it.
Very
Nothing
long.
else happened. Long.
The pacing of how it came together was at least well done, and the art was really nice. But it's like, what's the point in that? It's like, okay, so they took Mars. Fine. What else were we doing with Mars? We're so far beyond Mars in a universe like Marvel. Come on, we're like light years beyond Mars. Who cares about Mars? So
I guess it's the idea that they have their own private island. They're like, no, wait, we got to make this bigger. They have to have their own planet now.
Yeah, of course.
Like, all right. It goes back to like, what is character-wise? How does this affect everybody? And I didn't really see it here. This is very long, and I didn't quite care about this issue. And I haven't liked this arc as much as I want to.
I know. It had such like promising
hype.
Hype. Yeah, that's the word, hype. But that was all it was. It was just hype. And everything else I've read, like I started to read the books this week, and I'm like, I started skimming everything because it just wasn't interesting. I ended up not even reading some of them. So it was like,
I had to drop some of them. They just they didn't connect at all. That you really needed to be reading those series. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna read the books that I normally read then.
Yeah, it's like New Mutants. It's like I was completely lost aside from, hey, it's Gabby, and oh, they're at the party. Everything else is like, I don't know what you're talking about. What's going on? Why is Wolfsbane upset? Who's Tyr? Why can't he be? I don't know any of this stuff. I don't care. Um, yeah.
We had a comment from Twitch who says it has huge implications, especially as it relates to human-mutant relations. I definitely think it'll have huge implications politically, but it wasn't shown here. We didn't really get to see that in this issue in particular. And I don't know, it just didn't excite me because, we've seen so many political implications already for Krakoa. So I was like, okay, now we have even more.
That's the thing. This could have been a backup story and told in a third of the amount of space. That's my issue with this, because it's like this big hyped up issue that you got to have. It ties into all this, and it really could have been told in a few pages in the back of, X-Men or whatever. So there just wasn't a lot, like you said, Kat. It's just, okay, they took Arakko, now it's got its own planet, and they're off Krakoa. So now you got a planet and an island. What are you going to do? And it's not even the first time this has been a thing. Magneto used to have Asteroid M, which was kind of a planet, right? So I don't know. Just didn't have that impact that I was hoping it would.
I agree with you on that one.
All right. So moving on from that, let's talk about a book that I actually did enjoy, which was Static Shock Season 1, Number 1. I quite like this. It was a nice kind of reboot of Static in a way. Actually, it was a complete reboot. So it's not in a way, it just was.
It was definitely, but there's stuff that happened in that one shot that I don't think any of us read. And I was like, oh, damn, this didn't really feel like an issue 1 because I feel like I'm missing story.
Yeah, you missed the origin, the gassing of the students and that kind of thing. But I did like the conflict, and I liked how he was struggling to keep himself together and keep the electricity within, and how the bully kind of attacked his whole family, burned his whole house down. It's like, what the, oh my god, that's big major stuff happening to him already when he just got his powers. And I quite liked his family dynamic too. He's it felt like your average American family, supportive sister, they bicker and stuff, but then this big major thing happens, and now they've got to deal with that. And I thought it was a solid first issue, though.
It was interesting to see the mom alive because I'm a huge fan of the show, and she was not alive there, so that was interesting. I definitely think there's a lot of promise. I do feel, again, I felt like I missed some stuff because of the one shot, and I feel like they were really trying to go with emotions and say, okay, all this happened, and you didn't really get the the friend moments or the family moments as much here. But I like that the artwork was a little darker, fit the old school Milestone books. I definitely want to see where this goes. I thought it was a pretty solid book, but I think I wanted to love it. And I just liked it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and our next book is Radiant Black, number 5, which we were both greatly anticipating. Something big happens here that I think we weren't expecting again. He's alive, maybe, at least for now.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, that's very interesting. And then, of course, the whole Power Rangers comparison really comes into effect by the end of this issue when 2 more players come in. So now you got, I guess, Radiant Yellow and Radiant, I don't remember the other color. Was it pink or something?
Let me see. I don't.
Or was it purple?
Yeah, I don't remember, actually.
I don't know. There's 4
there's
of them
other
now,
colors. Yeah, there's other colors now. Which I think we all predicted because it was very Power Ranger-y. So I was like, okay, when's this going to happen? I definitely knew it was going to happen at some point. It wasn't a shock. Because also you have the Red Ranger, Radiant.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was such a good issue. The emotions in this one where we get to see the friend react and not want these powers. Right. And then also getting a little bit of a view of who this Radiant Red is. We actually get to see her face and like her really struggling with these powers. Like she's not doing these things on purpose. She's just a human being. And then seeing the other characters and then seeing the big bad in the end. It was just such a well-written issue.
Yeah, and I wonder if she knew what is the guy that died?
I don't know if his name is it Nate? I don't know.
Was it Nate or Nathan, something like that?
Nathan, maybe. Nathan.
Yeah. I wonder if she knew him because she called him by name. It's like I was just trying to scare him. So I wonder if there's a connection there, and that's when Marshall saw her, it's like, oh, maybe there's familiarity there. But yeah, like him bargaining with God at the beginning, like if you save him, I'll get my life together, all that stuff. On the stages of grief, and it was perfectly handled in this issue. And then you introduce these other characters that are running from this big bad that you mentioned, and this kind of it leads to the people that, or whatever, the beings that created this power want it back, and they're coming for all these radiants now. And this series is so good, and it takes you into completely unexpected places almost every issue. So
we're only up to issue 5. This is what I mean, like when I'm saying like when a book needs to move, but it's also character driven, you just get sucked into a story. I don't, I kind of miss that sometimes in comics, because I feel like, we read a lot of comics and you don't get that in every series, but this is one where I'm just like sucked into the story.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right. So now we're going into our number 5, pink, yellow, red, and black Serenity set. We just need a blue. There you go. Yeah, that'll be next. All right. So number 5, what is your number 5 this week?
Mine was Static. We already talked about it.
Okay, cool. Mine is Venom, 200 or 35, whatever you want to call it. Very long issue.
I tried starting to read that, and I could not finish. I was like, I don't know if it's worth it.
You should have skipped to the second half, because it got much better in that half. The beginning of it was all about Eddie and his omniscience, and him being all over the place and having meetings with Avengers and X-Men and all this stuff simultaneously, which was interesting, but it was very slow. You kind of had to. I actually put it down and came back to it to read the rest of it. But the second half was mostly about Dylan and his dealing with not having his powers anymore and having to go to school and that kind of thing. And the symbiote, kind of protecting him and going with him, and ultimately he becomes Venom. Dylan is the new Venom.
Okay.
And yeah, so he's. He kind of created his own suit out of the symbiote, so it's like big and like hulking, and he's got chains wrapped around his wrist because all the comics he read when he grew up had chains, so he wanted chains. I love that. It was like a
a 90s. He's probably a little young. He's a little young for a 90s hero.
True, but it was still a nice nod to 90s comics, so it was cool. It was like very Spawn-esque in that way. And then there was also the Flash subplot where Venom turned down, or not Venom, but Eddie turned down being an Avenger, but he said, I know a guy, and you know him. And that shifted to Flash Thompson, who is trying to find his way. And he discovers like there's all these other symbiotes walking around just like masquerading as regular people now. His barista was a symbiote, and he's in like there's these guardsmen that are attacking and trying to hunt down all the symbiotes now. And so he's going to apparently become an Avenger at some point. Flash Thompson is, and so that was cool. So that second half really picked things up, and that's why it made my top 5 for that part. So it was good.
Maybe Extreme Carnage. That's some teases for that as well.
Yeah. So and of course for the new Venom run too. So yeah.
Which I'll definitely give a shot. I'll give both those first issues a shot.
Yeah. So Venom was actually the next book we were going to talk about. So let's go from that to something I don't think either one of us were impressed with. Which is
considering the chopping block.
Yeah, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and number 1. And I will be honest, I did not get past. Maybe the first 10 pages. I put it down.
I didn't either. I couldn't get through it. I skimmed the last half, so I read the first 10 pages, and then first of all, the opener. You talk about this random girl. I'm like, and her dad. I'm like, okay, fine. And then drunk Supergirl. What the hell is that? I was like, okay, so you really are making her every character you've ever written. And it's just like, it doesn't matter that it's Supergirl. It's just the analog of every other character he's ever written, except now it's a girl. And I was so disappointed with this book. And I love the art. And that's was, I think, the biggest disappointment. But yeah, I was not into drunk Supergirl. It just didn't do it for me. Because also, why? Why is she in that state? I don't really get it.
what? Yeah, what? Where is she? Why is she there? What? When is this taking place? What does this matter to anything? And like you said, this random girl and her dad, and this whole thing, with her family and all this stuff. It's like, I don't care about this person. I've never met this person. I'm not connected to this person. And apparently now they're connected to Supergirl for some odd reason. It felt like an Elseworlds kind of thing that I just didn't care about. So, yeah, there's that.
I wanted to like this book, and
yeah, I did too. I want to like a Supergirl book, and I want there to be a Supergirl book. I just don't want it to be this.
I always say Supergirl being super was the ultimate way to do Supergirl.
Absolutely.
It felt new. It felt real. It felt raw. She wasn't perfect, but she was just trying to navigate her life and, be a teen. I think that's really what Supergirl is all about. The name changes says, I don't think Supergirl can get drunk. Well, somehow she got drunk here. I don't know how, but it was her 21st birthday. It was her 21st birthday. I let her, I'm again, it wasn't the idea of her being drunk. I don't give a shit. It's the idea of it was very out of character for her, and there was no rhyme or reason story-wise at why it was there. It didn't make sense to me. I don't know what that has to do with anything about this story.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't know, unless that's how she ended up there because she was drunk and lost course or something. I don't know. Because I didn't finish the book. Yeah.
Supergirl had been good, not the books, but the show or anything really. See, I even dropped off the show because I thought the show went off the bandwagon. They just don't know what to do with this character, in my opinion. It's just been such a long time for me.
Right, exactly. So.
Oh, Tevye does bring up a good point. She's on a red sun planet, so maybe that's why she got drunk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is true. So, but, I won't know because I'm not going to continue reading this. So, teaser for the chopping block. But yeah, let's go into our number 4s then. And mine is a book we just talked about, Static Season 1. So, what was yours?
Mine was, I think it's Fantastic Four, but let me check. Fantastic Four, issue 33. This is such a fun issue. So it's the wedding of Dr. Doom, and of course the Fantastic Four is there. There's a lot of great back and forth, and then the wife on the fiance, we'll call her, on the altar says, "Hey, I slept with Johnny. Just want to let you know that." And then Dr. Doom's like, "Fuck this all," and he wants to destroy the Fantastic Four, and the wedding doesn't actually end up happening. And it was just such a fun issue. I had such a good time with this one.
I'm not loving this arc as much as you, I guess.
I like this one, yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. It's like the stuff with Johnny and yeah, but it blew up like it was going to, right? There can't be peace between Doom and the Fantastic Four. That just wasn't going to last, and it didn't last for more than 2 seconds. So it was okay.
It felt just classic to me, and I think I just kind of miss fun comics sometimes, and just something that's bombastic and out of here. And I think I definitely got that with this one.
I get that, and I mean the writing was solid. I did like the quips and the everything. Everybody was completely in character. You had a lot of stuff going on. Johnny dealing with the stuff with Sky and Ben and Alicia. I mean, there was a lot of layers there. But yeah. All right. So moving on from that. Which Fantastic Four was the next book we were going to talk about, so there's that. The next one is a new number 1 issue from Boom, which is Save Yourself, which we were both anticipating this week. Judging again by the chopping block, I don't think you were too impressed, but
it wasn't bad. It felt like one of those books where it's like, do I need the issue too? Not really. It wasn't I think it was the characters that didn't really bring me in. The concept was interesting enough. It's like these magical girls that are evil, and the evil people you'd normally see in the Magical Girl franchise are actually the good guys. There's kind of a romance there. So I'm like, okay, interesting concept, but there was nothing that really sucked me in where I was like, whoa, need to get that issue too.
Yeah, it would make a good anime, I think. Yeah. But I agree.
Needed more in this one issue,
Right. I agree. The main character, all you really got from her was that she was crushing on the girl she passed, and that was pretty much it. Because then it kind of shifted from her to her I think it was her brother that kind of
the Pride Cafe thing.
Yeah, it tricked her into coming into public and socializing and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it could have been a stronger
but even now,
setup.
It was like you were thrown into it. You were introduced to so many characters and so much. It's just like, okay, slow down. Who's everybody? What's going on?
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree on that point. I still like the concept well enough that I think I'll give it another issue. But I agree if it doesn't start hooking me more with the characters, that's that. And that's the problem I have with some of these Boombox books. They have lots of great concepts and they've got really interesting stories, but sometimes the characters just don't resonate. And
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So let's move into our number 3s then. And mine, I think, yeah, we already talked about that one as well. That was your Under the Radar, which was Stillwater, number 8.
Mine was also Stillwater.
Okay. Well, there you go. That was quick. Moving on to our next big book, which is definitely one we'll talk about a little bit more in depth, which is Nightwing issue 81. Is it 81? Yeah, 81.
Yeah, 81. I know the numbers are so confusing for Nightwing. Yeah. I'm like, I feel like we're up to 84 already.
Yeah, but man, I just love this book so much. We were talking about a little bit earlier just how good this book is, and this was another solid issue. Not as much happened in this issue.
That ending, man.
But the ending, and I don't know. I love the character stuff between Barbara, Dick, and Tim too. Just the back and forth with them, and the concern over his concussion, and him underestimating Heartless and that whole thing. And it's like, man, I kind of care about Heartless. I want to know who this guy is, and it's making me care about characters I wouldn't care about in other books. Yeah, just so good. But like you said, that ending, that reveal was like, okay.
I didn't see it coming by any means. It wasn't spelled out.
No, not at all. It's like, what the heck? How did that happen? And have we never known about this? It's just like one of those things. And where's the Zuko connection? Which makes it even more interesting. Like, is there a deeper connection between the Graysons and the Zucos than we ever knew about?
It seems like it, because we know that they have the same father. We don't know if they have the same mother. So are they half siblings? Like, what is this drama about? And I'm just curious to see like what their relationship's gonna be, because is she really like a mole at this point? Because it seems like that's what she's doing, is that she's like on Dick's side, but she's playing the long game. And I just want to see her personality, because we've kind of seen this fake personality so far. So like, what is that relationship gonna be? In my head canon, I think it'd be really fun if like she's like good with the ladies as well, and just play off of like the Nick Grayson thing. I think that'd be, or good with guys, either way. I think that'd be a lot of fun, like just to play with that aspect. But going back to also with the Bat family, I thought there was a lot of good interaction between them, and again, did a lot happen besides cliffhanger? No, is pretty much, well, honestly, yes, though, because you're still playing with the concussion thing, which I think another writer would have tried to forget about, but actually plays it into this story and make it important.
Love that.
So such a good book, and the artwork's so good, and it just feels like such a good drama in general. It's literally, I think, the best superhero book on stands right now.
Yeah, and just like little moments, like calling the dog Bitewing, and he's like, that's a great name, but her name's Haley, and it's like, well, we all have 2 names, and Barbara's like, I got 3.
That was my panel of the week this week.
Yeah, oh, nice. Yeah, I hadn't looked at them yet. That's just stuff like that is just brilliant. And like when the boats are coming in to save the kids on the pier, and first there's that emotional resonance of, Bloodhaven really is good and is full of good people. It's just run by bad people. And then the names of the ships, I don't know if you caught it, but like Sealy and Jurgens, and all these writers and creators that worked on Nightwing and the Bat family and stuff were the names of the ships, which I thought was a really nice nod to creators from the past. And just such a good book. And I will say about his sister, if you're going to go down that route, then she has to have a nice butt too, because Nightwing's
she
butt
has
is epic,
to,
right?
yeah.
So it has to run in the family, right?
Well, then we know it's from the dad's genes. That's it.
There you go.
I'm curious to see how she's going to play into the fold, because we talk about like Teresa from Spider-Man when they introduced her. And they did nothing with her. Right. I hope that's not the same. And I think we know if Tom Taylor's writing her, that won't be the same. And I have a feeling she'll be a smash hit, something like Gabby, and really become part of the fold, where we actually miss that other writers haven't been doing anything with her. So, and I think the Bat Family needs to grow a little bit, and also that's another question. Will she join the Bat Family? Will she become vigilante? There's so many questions there.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways you could go with her, especially with the Zuko connection, and being in the mayor of Bloodhaven now. So, I'm just excited for the ride. I want to see where he takes it, because it's just this book keeps me on. It just keeps me happy every time I read it. I saved it for last. I read this right before we came on, so it'd be fresh, because I wanted to I don't know. I wanted to save the best for last. So
I think that's smart. I think I read it. I sometimes, like, before I read my comics, I'll like skim, like not skim, but like look through the pages, see what's gonna happen. And I saw that and I was like, oh my God, I gotta read this. This looks so cool. So I think it was one of the first ones I ended up reading. And also it was Nightwing. So I tend to try to read something like really easy in the beginning, like something I know it's gonna be quick. So that maybe ended up becoming like third or fourth. Like, honestly, from this pile probably would have been Save Yourself, because like it looks like a very quick read. So I'm like, all right, let me get through that and see what that's about. Yeah,
it's interesting how some books are so full of stuff, but they're such quick reads. Like Nightwing is one of those, and I think Runaways, even though there's so much dialogue, it's still a pretty quick read.
Because dialogue is so good. It's so snappy. It feels so conversational. There's a lot of dialogue in comics where it just so it explains to you. It's very explainy. Where you're like, I'm gonna have to get through this just to figure out what's going on in the story. But Runaways, it's never like that. It's just really a back and forth between characters, which I feel like it's been a while since we got the last issue of Runaways. But we do have the Pride issue tomorrow, so at least we'll get some Carolina and Nico. But I don't think Rainbow's writing it. I think it's another writer.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, we shall see. All right, and the next book we're going to talk about is, speaking of Taylor, Seven Secrets, number 9. Which this was an interesting issue. Again, this was
interesting.
Yeah, this was a slower issue. It was just basically they found a safe place to hide out, but they had this vote to who was going to be the big keeper of all the secrets now, and ended up being Casper's mom. And her reaction to each one of the secrets was what I found very interesting. It's like, okay, this one is, that makes sense. And it's like, oh my God, and then the reveal at the end, like, don't scream, and takes off the mask, and it's Sigurd, or however you pronounce his name. It's like,
I think you're right on.
Yeah, like, where did that come from? And how are we going to explain that? Does that play into what the actual secret is? And it's just so good. This book is back on track after that one little tiny detour that we got, I think.
Yeah, this issue is good. I will say, if it didn't have the ending, I think it still would have been a little bit going through emotions. But once we got towards the end and like seeing again, the main character's mom, Casper's mom, doing what she was doing, and then the ending was so shocking. I was like, okay, good. Like you said, we're back on track. But not my favorite issue of the whole series, but promising.
Yeah, not in my top 5 either. So, but
yeah, me either.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to what comes next with it. So, speaking of top 5,
I just looked. I was like, what number was it? Number 6.
Yeah, nice. So we're getting into our number 2 books, which mine again is one we already talked about, which was Radiant Black. So, what was
mine? Was Nightwing. We already talked about it.
Okay, cool. All right, so moving on to the next big book, which I'm the only one here that reads this. Batman Fortnite 0 Point number 5. I like this issue. It wasn't quite as strong as the previous issues in the series for me. But the revelation was that Deathstroke knew, he had all his memories, and he knew who Batman and Catwoman were, and he knew everything, and he was plotting to get out. And he basically, by the end of the issue, he has figured a way to get back home himself, and he's trapped Batman and Catwoman in the Fortnite world with no way out. So their way out was, it took like 3 people to hold this thing a certain way and to manipulate the stream to be able to get back through the portal thing. Otherwise, you just disintegrate. So now they're stuck there, and you don't know what's going to happen to them. Obviously, they're going to find a way out, but we don't know how now. So, but still a solid issue, and I still love this series. So, and
you somewhat enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then Miles Morales. Did you read this one?
I dropped it.
No.
Again.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this Clone Saga. It's like,
it's just boring from what I read.
Yeah. So like in Venom, another thing I didn't mention in Venom was there were definite teases and hints about the Ultimate Universe coming back. I know we were asked.
Tease and hint for such a long time.
Yeah, but this was a stronger hint, and I'll go into that in a second, because I don't know if you read that part of it with the Maker. Okay. And if you don't want me to spoil it, if you're going to read it later.
Go for it. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, you can spoil it.
So with Miles, there just isn't any of that, right? It's like he destroyed this lab last issue, and it turns out that was the cure for these clones. And so now they're mad about it. And this issue was him trying to turn one of the clones to his side. And we find out that the being that the assessor that took him hostage or whatever for a while was, it's an AI. It's not even a person, and all this stuff. I don't know. It was just more clone stuff, and they're dying now. So he's trying to be a good guy and trying to find the cure for them. And all the while, they're trying to ruin his reputation. And by the end of the issue, the one that's masquerading as him has kidnapped his baby sister. So that's where things are at with that. So it was okay. I'm not loving it. I might drop it myself, actually. So
if you can't do well with a clone saga and make it interesting, I don't know where that series is going.
Yeah, exactly. So with the Venom thing, real quick. Eddie can find any other symbiote, but he can't find the Maker, who has a symbiote from the Ultimate Universe. And he reveals this plot to the X-Men, to the Avengers, to everybody simultaneously, that the Maker's plan, he visited the Council of Reeds. So there's a bunch of Reed Richards out there, and he's been tasked with the challenge to bring back the Ultimate Universe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's what he's trying to do. What he's actually trying to do is basically make the Ultimate Universe erase the current universe. So kind of take it over.
Oh, that's not fun.
No. So instead of just bringing it back. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm sure they're going to touch on that either in Avengers or Venom. Who knows? So.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they'll actually, what book would do that, because I think I don't know if Venom's going to be a Flash book or a Dylan book or an Eddie book,
right?
Or Extreme Carnage is going to be involved in any of this. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, so that moves us to our number 1, which I'm curious to see, with Nightwing being your number 2, what your number 1 was.
Mine was Radiant Black.
Okay. So mine was Nightwing, so we just got them switched.
We just switched it. Radiant Black just surprised me. That Nightwing didn't, but like you said, there were some slower moments in Nightwing where Radiant Black was just like every moment of that book was just hitting hard, hitting on all cylinders.
Absolutely, I get that completely, and it was a toss up for me. It could have been either one of them, so it just fell where it fell. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so we're going into the chopping block now, which we've kind of already given that away quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Supergirl World, Woman of Tomorrow, I think we both just pretty much confirmed we're dropping that.
We did get a comment, chopping so soon. I think with so many books coming out, I didn't like anything from that book. There wasn't like a thing. I was like, oh, that has potential. I'll get issue 2. Like there just wasn't anything for me.
Yeah. And then you kind of mentioned Save Yourself, that you're kind of on the fence with that one too.
Yeah, it all depends on that week, right?
Yeah.
But again, there was also even that issue. The plot was interesting, but the characters didn't really drive it home for me, so it's harder to say I want to get issue 2.
Yeah. And then did you have any others?
Yeah, Silver Coin. It's an
Okay.
anthology book, and I haven't been loving it as much as I wanted to. And I realized, hey, we already had the slasher issue. If I didn't love the slasher issue, then I'm probably not going to like the rest
Yeah.
of this. So I am dropping that one.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's all our chopping block. So that takes us into our next thing, which is most anticipated. I'm sorry, I covered your comment.
No, go for it. Just David said, but she
Has a sword.
Yeah, it's okay, and you can put most anticipated back up. Yeah, let's go into most anticipated. So I guess this is also the point where we should mention next week we will not be on the show because that is our second week that we were taking off. Remember, we mentioned we were going to take 2 weeks off during the summer. We took off one. We're taking our second one next week, but I was looking through my list and looking at the books that come out the week after, the books that we cover the week after, and there's not like a ton. So if there's like books from next week that you really want us to talk about, let us know when we go live and we'll discuss them. Maybe it's like, oh, Marvel Pride we want to talk about, or Robin, or whatever. So let us know when that time comes. But I'm looking at our most anticipated. There's not a ton of most anticipated here, but we'll talk about Stray Dogs first.
Yeah, Stray Dogs. I don't know if this is the last issue or if it's the penultimate or whatever. Things really picked up last issue though, and I can't wait to see what happens now that they know what's happening to the dogs. So it's on now. So we'll see.
Maybe there'll be a sequel for that one because I know that's been selling well too.
Yeah.
You never know.
And I never got a chance to submit my dog, so I'd love there to be a sequel so Trixie can make it in the pages. Yeah,
I hope they end up doing that just for that fact, not for the story, just for the fact you get to enter your dogs.
Of course.
So next up is another indie book, which is Shadecraft issue 4. Now I was talking about Radiant Black being such a good book. I think for me it's on par in some regards with Shadecraft. Very different books, so it's hard to compare. But like the excitement level for both those books, like every issue, you're like, whoa, what just happened? What's this book about? And last issue, we just found out like her brother's not her brother, or at least the Shadow's not her brother. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted. I heard clicking noises. My dog walking across the floor. She heard her name, I guess. Yeah. Shadecraft is such a good book too, and it just came out of nowhere. And it's been, like you said, surprise after surprise with that one too. And I don't know where this is going, and that's got me on the edge of my seat. I want to know, where these abilities come from. What's the end game with this? So very cool.
Great book, great artwork, great story.
Oh, beautiful artwork.
The only Marvel book we have on this list is Marvel Voices Pride issue 1. I'm really excited for this one. I hope there's some nice surprises in here. I have a feeling there won't be. I hope I enjoy it more than the DC one. Honestly, I'm just really excited for Carolina and Nico, if I'm being completely honest. But, looking forward to seeing what that book will bring.
Yeah, I like you. I just hope it's a little better than the DC one was. I like some of the stories in DC. We talked about that before. I never did go back and finish reading that. It's on my pile to do. But, so I'm just looking forward to it.
So next up, we have a lot of DC books here. So we'll start with the Bat Family books. So we have Detective Comics issue 1038. And that book's been really hitting on all cylinders as well.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's such a weird story to be so excited about, right? It's just like you wouldn't think you'd be.
Who cares?
Yeah,
right?
It's a murder mystery, and I like murder mysteries, but it's just like your basic murder mystery. But just the way that it's written just makes it next level.
Tavia, be patient. What about Infinite Frontier? We'll get there.
We're getting there. Yeah.
I agree. I think because we just missed Detective Comics being a mystery, being an actual detective book.
You're right. It's in the name.
It is in the name, and the creative team is just so good for that one.
Yeah.
But moving into Robin issue 3, another book that I've been really enjoying and just love the supporting cast. I love last issue. So, yeah, I want to see what happens. Last issue, Rose is like, Damien, you need to learn how to have fun. So we'll see where that one takes us.
I have not read last issue yet.
Oh, definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I realized it when I was going through my recent pile, and I was like, oh, there's Robin. I haven't read that yet. I need to read that. It comes out tomorrow. So yeah, it's definitely on my list to read this week. And I've got extra time since we're not doing the show. So
exactly. So we have all our catch up time. So last anticipated book is Infinite Frontier issue 1. So there you go.
There you go, Tevia.
I'm excited to see what this means for the DC universe because you know that one shot / whatever it was had a lot. So what does this mean for the overall mythology? So I'm curious to see what it's not my most anticipated like compared to Robin though. Like I'm more excited for Robin, but it's still going to be a cool book.
Yeah, it's not like I'm dying to read this. It's just like I'm curious what they're going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hope it gets to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for next issue. But none of those mythology books really are ever for me. Where I'm like, oh, and I'm curious. I'm interested as a comic reader. I want to know what's going on. But they're never like, oh my God, I need to know. Which is why I didn't really read Death Metal.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
So Terry Vaughn has a question for us, for me, but I'll also say for Brant. What's your favorite DC book lately? The ones I think we did a lot of the Bat books. So like Nightwing, Robin's really good. Those are the two I can really think of. Detective Comics, Batman.
Yeah, Nightwing stands above them all for me right now. I really like the first issue of Robin, so I mean, if it's still as good as that was, then that's up there. So yeah, it's just Bat books, I guess, for me as well. Yeah,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else because there's not a lot coming out from DC right now.
Yeah, it's like I mean, you've dropped a lot, and Teen Titans Academy I like, but I don't love. I think Crush and Lobo was really good.
Oh yeah, Crush and Lobo was good. But there's only one issue, so you never know what issue 2 is going to bring. But I really like Crush and Lobo.
Right. Yeah. So Nightwing stands above them all for me though.
Yes. We have another question. Kit Kat X. Did you try Static? We did. We discussed it on the show. Then
those are both our top 5s actually.
It is. So we're excited for more on that one. And then I will mention Twitch mentions House on the Lake. That was also the first issue.
That was so good.
It's hard to count that though because it's like a DC Black Label kind of indie book. So I don't think about DC Comics when I think about that book. That's a very good first issue. But yeah, favorite Marvel books right now. I mean, the thing that comes to mind is just Runaways, right? I mean, I'm sure there's more, but really, I love that's the one book where I'm like, oh my God, because it's hard because a lot of books I normally would say are not out right now. Like Miss Marvel doesn't have a book. Spider-Gwen doesn't have a book. Black Widow. There you go.
I think we're on the same page. Runaways, Black Widow. The Joker's another good DC book that we really like.
Joker's been really good.
More Bat Family. Iron Man was really good. The past few issues haven't been as strong.
Slowed down. Tevia mentions Daredevil. Daredevil is really good. Yeah. I would say good. I like Daredevil a lot. It's close to love, but it's just like really, really like right now.
Yeah. For me, Black Cat is another one that I really love. Mike and I both really enjoy that series too. So those are the main ones I can think of off the top of my head though.
Comic Mike's asks, can only buy one book tomorrow. Any advice from anyone for a good read that's not superheroes? Plenty. The ones we just mentioned, like Stray Dogs, Shadecraft. I wouldn't say. I mean, I want to say Radiant Black, but it's kind of a little bit superhero-ish. So, Stillwater is really good. Firepower has been a solid book. So, some really good stuff out there.
Yeah.
A Nice House on the Lake was a really good first issue. Mm-hmm. What about Thor? Terry asks. I like Thor. Yeah. I think Mike is probably who's enjoying it the most. Like, I like it, but I don't love it. Love is a strong word. Love is like, I'm going to the comic book store. I legit can't wait to read that issue. And the top of my head, again, Black Widow, Runaways, Nightwing. Those are love books. but like
Yeah.
I like Thor, you know.
Yeah, I really like Thor, but yeah, I agree. Those books that you mentioned are a little bit higher for me than Thor.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for the questions. We are going to start wrapping up here. So, Brant, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, the Not So Fairy Tales anthology on Kickstarter that I have a story in has a week to go, 7 days. We have made our goal. I think we hit our first stretch goal as well. Yeah, so we got a couple more stretch goals that we're hoping to reach. We're about 21 backers away from 300 backers, which I know is what John was aiming for.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're at, I think it's at 12,700 something right now. I could screen share it if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. Pick up the tab. There it is. So yeah, here it is. It's an anthology for classic fairy tales reimagined for a more modern audience. And my story is called Labor of Love. It's kind of a take on the old woman who lived in a shoe. And there's a giant who likes basketball that's in it. And
I'm already in love. So.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stories by a lot of cool creators. Russell Nolte, Melissa J. Massey, John Eddingfield is the guy running it. Enrique has several stories in it, I believe. Will Allred, which is a good friend of mine and Kat's, has a story in it called What's in a Name. And there's a 40-page free preview that you can go click right there on the page and check it out. Clay Adams, another friend of ours that has a story in it. So, yeah, 7 days to go. So if you'd like to check it out, just search for Not So Fairy Tales on Kickstarter.
Awesome. And for me, obviously, just 2 more days left for the Like File Like Daughter Haunting book. I've already screen shared, so you guys could go check it out. I am going to share the link one more time, though. And yeah, if you go check it out, that'd be greatly appreciated. We are getting closer to 500 backers. That'd be kind of nice to end on that. So we'll see how we end up doing. Yeah. And then in July, should mention this as well. The mid-July, we have our webcomic being released. So that is called Slice of Life. And we're going to have the Meet the Characters chapter come out sometime next week. So you guys will get even more information before the actual chapters start in that mid-July area. So definitely go check that out. Other than that, that's it. So again, just a reminder, we will not be on next week, but just, keep a list of any books you desperately want us to talk about. Maybe we'll have some time to chat about it the week when we actually are on. So in 2 weeks, we'll be back and discuss those books and whatever else has come out. Hopefully the new Spider-Man writer will be out by then.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out the audio version on iTunes and anywhere else you listen to podcasts, or cbwpodcast.com. Airs on Fridays. So
yeah. Leave a 5-star review if you can. So let's get the subscriber. There you go. So be sure to subscribe, press the bell. That way you could be notified when we do go live. We have all our social medias. And then also like this video, because that really helps the channel as well. And comment. Comment post live really does help the channel and the videos and the discussion. So not just in that live box, but in the actual comments as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.